All right, let's get into it. I am Jay with Guilty of Crime, and we're back. I know I came on a few minutes early, but do me a favor if you just rolled in, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and get a membership if you can. All right, we're going to do this today. We got a pretty full episode today. And when I say that, I mean, this is like a deep dive to catch us up on number one, everything that's happened in the case and the new charges added today and the huge question that a lot of people are not answering. I've been doing a deep dive on this case since last week. This has actually been 2 weeks, and why, that is what I'm gonna hammer home today. So although I'm gonna catch you up on the fact that ex-husband Michael McKee was arrested for the double homicide, I'm also going to go into the psychology of things and why a person like that particularly would do so. Now, you can say whatever you want about jealousy or this or that, and that's all good. We all have opinions. A lot of people do, but we're going to get into the psychology of an actual person that would do this particular crime from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. and much more, guys. So I want you to know, come on in, hit that like button. I'm going to pop this on really quick. Just a quick recap. We do have court footage today. We're going to show the court footage. I'm also going to show you the home. I know a lot of people are asking, Jay, how the hell did they get the code? Well, that's an easy one. That's a very easy one. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now some of the things that I want to correct in this episode, things that we didn't know from the last time. I got to tell you, that 911 caller that saw the body through the supposed window, that didn't happen. That person must have had the door code to know that Spencer was dead in his bedroom. So there's one person that we know of for sure that has the code. Two people probably have the code because different friends and family members, other people coming and going. It's a party place. They were about to celebrate a 5-year wedding anniversary, guys. So listen, these questions are all going to be answered today. We're gonna go through the documents we have, the information that we have, and then again the suppositions. I'm going to show you inside the house. I'm going to show you the 5-hour plus drive that this monster had to do to commit this double homicide, and what would make him commit that, and then to commit that, also to knowingly go in and say, I'm not going to hurt the children or the dog, but I'm going to shoot Monique once and then shoot Spencer multiple times. What would make a guy like this do this without actually having him to sit down at a desk and evaluate? Well, that's what we're going to go through today, guys. This monster was in court today. We're going to show that. This is Michael D. McKee, and I want to tell you guys that this monster was in court today. The charges were upgraded. Okay. So here's the things from the last episode that I needed to confirm with you guys. First, the 911 caller that saw the body had to have been in the house or he wouldn't have seen the body. So we now know that person was not looking through a window, but in fact in the house with a code, more than likely, which we're going to show. Number two, the wellness check, guys, was the complete wrong address. So the reason that this all kicked off and nobody knew anything was because they went to the wrong address for the wellness check, and an hour later the coworkers called in, possibly knowing something was awry, knowing that Michael McKee was probably stalking and already obsessed over Monique Tepe. Okay. So a lot of things today is for entertainment purposes only. We're evaluating this monster and the case, and it's all based on thoughts and entertainment. We don't have him or any, we're not qualified to diagnose anybody, but we're going to do our best. Thirdly, the caller said they couldn't get a hold of the wife, and that was particularly disturbing. What did they know about Monique and Michael McKee's relationship? You got to remember, they were married over 10 years ago for only 7 months. Now, today, this monster was in court, and let me tell you, he was in court for a total of 5 minutes. he waived his right to an extradition, which means he's going to be taken back to Franklin County, Ohio, to face murder charges. And they upped his murder charges from a murder charge, aggravated murder, to or from murder to murder charges to double aggravated murder with premeditation, which is facing life in prison or the death penalty because it is legal in Ohio since 2018. Now, they haven't done it. They have not used the death penalty since 2018, but this is one of those cases where they might just do so. This has aggravating factors, and the jurisdiction in Ohio has increased his double murder to double aggravated murder, and that's what happened today. So the four corrections, or the four things I wanted to talk about was why this happened. Number two, how the hell they got in the house and what the 911 caller saw while in the house, as well as the wellness check being at the wrong address. This whole thing is crazy. I'm going to pop up a quick clip just to get everybody on the same page about what is happening in this case. And then we're going to break it all down. So come on in, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, get a membership if you can, and let's help towards a goal. We'll be here for a good hour and a half today. So buckle up, buckle in, do what you need to. Let's get going. Not only do we have to catch up on the things that we didn't last week, but we got to go into court, and we also have to talk about why. That's the huge topic of today. Why? And even what the children are going to say and how we know that they're going to say. How do people interview children like this? And what do they know, and how much can they learn later on after recovering a bit from things that are out of the norm? So I'm going to pop this on. You're going to listen to this. So anybody that doesn't know the story, is confused, or got lost in the sauce of it, well, now you're going to know the whole thing in less than 3 minutes. Let's go.
Ex-husband, that's who cops say murdered a young dentist and his wife in their home. One critical clue led authorities to him. The shocking news breaking as friends and family gathered for their final goodbye to the couple. Les Trent is in Illinois, where the arrest happened, with the very latest.
The surgeon who cops say brutally murdered his ex-wife and her dentist husband appears in court for the first time.
Your name, for the record, Michael McKee.
39-year-old Dr. Michael McKee is charged with premeditated aggravated murder of...
And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get all of this. You guys, I hope that it makes sense and you go to other channels and say, I watched Jay from Guilty of Crime today, and we talked about why. Now, listen, guys, this got lost on me. Last episode, when I was covering this, there was a person on here that was local that said, Jay, it was the ex. It was the ex. He divorced her and then he married again. And I said, no way. I said, no way. I looked into the ex. I looked at the documents. I looked at the divorce. There was only a $1,200 cash settlement, no children and no property over 10 years ago. I bet my life on it almost. And boy, was I wrong. So in the issue today, we're going to talk about why, because it's very shocking to us, but it is not shocking to the family members that knew. They knew that they were going to start looking at this guy, in particular, the brother-in-law that I kept saying to you guys, why does he keep talking? What does he know? Why isn't he telling us? Well, he knew, guys. He knew, but what did he know? Thank you so much, Indie Isham, for starting us off with the $9.99 super chat. Mab's in the house. Thank you, Mab. Kicking it off. Choo choo. All right, listen up, guys. We're going to get into all of that today.
Spencer Tepe and his wife Monique in Columbus, Ohio. He waived extradition from Illinois, where he was arrested and will be transported to Ohio. Cops say McKee drove from his home in Chicago to Columbus to commit the murders.
And that's what I wanted to show you on the map. He drove, I mapped that. It was over 5.5 hours. Now, what's up, Randy B? Good to see you, my friend. It's been a while. Now, Meme, what do you mean who else would have did it? If you must have missed my last episode, because we said that we talked about it being a targeted attack, and we posed the question, who would have done it? And we had 101 different answers. Then that guy that was married 10 years ago, no property, no children, and nothing since then. Why would a doctor do that over 10 years ago? Well, we're going to talk about why. All right. So I did the mapping today. I'm going to share that with you. It's a 5-hour and 42-minute drive. I went inside the house. We're going to take a look at that. And then we're also, I mean, the huge thing today is why, but you got to go back to my other 2-hour episode where I told you who else it could have been. What's up, Randy B? Good to see you. Let's go. All right.
And drove back to Rockford, Illinois, where he works at a local hospital. A round trip of 800 miles. Arrest documents pinpoint the murders at 3:52 a.m. The couple's 2 young children were.
Now, that's oddly specific, and I, of course, wanted to talk to you about that. They nailed that so tightly about the time that they were murdered. They nailed it so tightly that the only thing I can say here is that they have physical evidence that he was inside of the house at that time, meaning the cameras. Now, the cameras is ultimately what arrested him. That is him right there. This person was tracked down to where his car went, and the killer is a doctor, and he went right back to his car that ultimately drove back the 5 hours and 42 minutes to Ohio with the license plate trackers, and boom, there's the killer right there, done, named, signed, sealed, and delivered. And again, we'll see him in court today later on, but 3:52 a.m., very specific.
The couple's 2 young children were left unharmed. McKee lives in a spacious 2-bedroom apartment on the top floor of this historic century-old building in Lincoln Park, an upscale Chicago neighborhood. There is still a heavy police presence here today. Neighbors say they often saw McKee swimming in the rooftop pool, which overlooks Lake Michigan. A police officer was guarding the apartment.
And now there's his apartment, which I wanted to bring y'all into too, so you could see where the heck this surgeon swimming over the sea in the night. What the hell is he doing? Why over 10 years would you do that? Shoot for the stars. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much. So love watching Jay and get all the updates. Well, thank you for the 1999 super chat. I could always use that. I appreciate you. Thank you. It's Monday after all. Appreciate it, guys. All right, let's go because there's a lot today.
I says, oh my God, I know this guy.
I spoke with a neighbor.
Now, that's the neighbor, and I was going to read you her statement, but when I saw this clip, I said, I'm just going to show them what she has to say. All right, people are coming out of the woodwork.
Garalyn Koleric, who coincidentally is a true crime writer.
I, introduced myself, and he was very nice, very kind man.
Monique Tepe married McKee in 2015, but they separated.
Now, listen, 2015, and they were only together 7 months. I looked at this character and I zoomed right by him. As a matter of fact, if you watch the episode, somebody in chat was telling me that he had remarried a man. And I said, wait a minute, then that means he's gay. What does he want her for? Well, it turns out that he's not gay. And so the supposed marriage after was just to get this person a green card. Then I just completely looked past this guy and I was like, no way someone's going to drive 6 hours to do this. No kind of motive. Well, now we do know the motive and we are looking at the person that did this, particularly and how his mind works. All right. So that's what we're doing besides the effing cracked and the jealousy and the 5-year coming up, 5-year beautiful anniversary coming up. And by the way, guys, I got to warn you, I'm going to tell you right now, the less that you put on the internet, the better you do. Okay. Now listen, I when I first came onto social media, I was huge on social media. You see my mom, my brother, my dad, my kid, my cousin, all over social media. And I started doing this YouTube thing and I realized that's not such a good idea because people aren't going to like you. And they're going to start getting resentment and hate when you start posting things when you're doing really good in life. These people, they posted the best wedding. I mean, it looked like a fairy tale wedding. And I can imagine this killer over there looking and seething, just seething at their wedding photos and how great their life and their kids and their perfect house. I mean, it looks perfect because fake book is fake after all, but still. People seethe after you. And I've realized that as a content creator that I'll do a video and people just hate me. They don't even like if I'm smiling, they're mad because I'm in a happy mood or they just don't like you. So it's better not to show off or put your stuff up, because this is the kind of stuff that happens. And people that are hateful will breed that and watch you and stalk you and lie and wait. And that's what I believed happened. All right, exactly, Sid. How dare she be happy without me? But we're gonna get deeper into that. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And I don't know, but Midnight Lace, I gotta tell you, there's more people like that than not. Okay, I gotta tell you why. I mean, when I first started Guilty of Crime, I thought I had 10 good friends that had my back. And 8 of those good friends left my ass and are over there talking shit about me on Reddit and X, when I only have I have a couple more people that are still my day ones. But the people that were closest to me, that knew me the most and knew how happy my daughter and my family and my things made me, they went and they used that against me. And that's what this guy did, in my opinion. Again, we're going to talk a lot deeper about it. All right. Yes, he does look like the Lego head, and he also looks like the killer in the Wendy Adelson case. He looks like that Garcia guy. He absolutely looks like the Garcia shooter. All right. So yes, let's keep going. Thank you. Shoot for the stars. You're right. Nailed it. If we can remember one thing today, keep your circle tight and be careful with what you're posting, because you got people like this watching and waiting and hoping. And then when they see the enough, they're going to go and they're going to do this. And that's what it boils down to in this case.
Dated after only 7 months. This is their wedding photo.
They were
She
married
appeared to refer to her
7 months.
previous marriage in her wedding vows when she married the dentist in 2021.
I had quite a journey to get to you. Countless bad bumble dates, wrong relationships, and waterfalls of tears.
Divorce papers obtained by Inside Edition say McKee and Monique were incompatible. McKee got his medical degree from Ohio State. Monique also attended the school. He worked as a vascular surgeon at hospitals in Virginia.
I mean, would you ever think that guy would go and murder 2 beautiful people that are just, fairy tale? The way they told people their life was just this fantastic love story that was portrayed on Facebook, by the way. And this guy's doing surgeries and seething over what she has. All right. So remember that. It sure went right past me. All right. But we're going to get into the psychology of this monster. And he is a monster that did a calculated cold act.
Nevada, and Illinois. The question baffling everyone is, if McKee is guilty, what could have triggered a murderous rage 8 years after a divorce?
This Mr. McKee is a surgeon, for goodness sakes. I mean, what was happening? It just doesn't seem to add up.
The family of the slain dentist and his wife tell Inside Edition she was terrified of McKee.
Michael McKee could get the death penalty, although Ohio hasn't executed an inmate since 2018.
So you guys have to ask yourselves, why would he do this? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Truth Seeker Jacqueline, good to see you, my friend. All right, I'm going to catch you up on some of the stuff just that we didn't get to see. And then I know y'all are waiting for the why. And that's everybody that's covered this. I mean, they've had speculations, but they haven't really talked about the psychology until now. So I'm very happy to do that with y'all. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Happy 420 membership, Foxy Amazon, in remembrance of Christopher that was gone too soon. Thank you. All right, real quick, guys, I got to document ex-husband charged in the killings of Monique and Tepe Spencer. Now, we already know this, right? We've seen it, but let me just run through it real quick. Police say the surveillance footage and the recovered vehicle is what tied Monique Tepe's ex-husband, Dr. Michael David McKee, to the fatal shootings of the couple. All right. Now, Michael David McKee is 39 years old. He's been arrested and charged with now 2 counts of murder in connection with the fatal shooting deaths of Dr. Spencer and Monique Tepe. Their bodies were found December 30th, 2025. We're in week 2, and we've already got an arrest and a first court appearance. All right, so I want to show you some of this stuff. Here is his mugshot there. All right, you've probably seen that everywhere. Booking date was on the 10th. He was arrested 2 days ago, 11:57 a.m. He's 39 years old, 6'1", 200 pounds, white, with hazel brown eyes and brown hair. Now, his court date was today, January 12th, 2026, where they upgraded his murder charges to aggravated murder and premeditation, which, when you look at that is facing life in prison with no parole and the death penalty. All right. Now, he waived his right to an extradition. So he's going to be taken back to Ohio rather than being in Illinois. I don't know if that's a smart move, but that's what he's doing. And I guess that's what the lawyers are telling him to do. Thank you so much, Kathy. I appreciate that so very much. If you received a membership by Kathy, please do thank her. All right, now listen, there's his booking photo. I've got all of his documents, guys. I'll go through some of them, but I know we still want to know why. Now, McKee, identified as Monique Tepe's husband, was taken into custody 2 days ago in Winnebago, Illinois, and is being held pending extradition back to Franklin County, Ohio. His court appearance was today. We'll see that later. Police said a suspect vehicle identified through the neighborhood surveillance and later into Rockford, Illinois, where evidence linked McKee after the homicides. Now, according to public records, McKee has no prior criminal charges in Ohio, and his motive for killing the couple is unknown. But we're going to look into the psychology of it so that we can get a better look at, because that just doesn't compute for me that we don't know. Now, the couple's 2 children, age 1 and 4, were inside of the home at the time of the slayings and were unharmed. Investigators believe that the victims were shot sometime between 2 and 5 a.m. on the day they were found. 3:52 a.m. is what they're nailing the time of death to. So that's like halfway in between. Now, the Tepe's brother-in-law, Rob, shared a statement, and he said, "Today's arrest represents an important step toward justice for Monique and Spencer. Nothing can undo the devastating loss of the 2 lives taken far too soon, but we're grateful to the city of Columbus Police Department, its investigators, and assisting law enforcement community whose tireless efforts helped to capture the person involved. We thank the community for continued support, prayers, and compassion shown throughout the tragedy. As the case proceeds, we trust the justice system to hold the person responsible fully accountable. Monique and Spencer remain at the center of our hearts, and we carry forward their love as we surround and protect the 2 children they leave behind. We will continue to honor their lives and the light they brought into this world." Okay, so I mean, I'm not going to keep going into all this because we've kind of done that, but public records and everything we've seen show August 2015 is when they were married, and only for 7 months, and then divorced. All right, so documents are all there. They even reference Plunder. Plunder has that 55-page packet of the divorce documents, which we're not going to go through at this time because, well, it's just really not relevant to me at this point. All right, so let's keep going. Let's keep getting on who, how, the freaking drive, the traffic, all that. Before we get into anything else, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the drive. Let me knock this out. Let me show you the drive real quick, and then you're going to see what kind of monster would do this. All right, yeah, he looks like Mac tonight even, right? All right, so take a look at this, guys. This is the drive that he had to do in order to get to Monique and Spencer Tepe's, and I'm sure that he wouldn't have done that without a viable way to get in the house. And I'm telling you right now, when people put codes on their house, a lot of times, guys, you got to be careful because they use birthdays and weddings and anniversaries. And I'm telling you, more people had their key code than just the people that were in there. Wait, what? You're lost? Okay. It was absolutely the ex-husband that's been arrested, and he did this 5 hour and 42-minute drive. All right, just for Jacqueline, because if Jacqueline's confused, then that means 5 other people that are here are confused. I don't want you guys to be confused, so I'm going to do this real quick. Let's go right to this. Listen, Spencer and Monique Tepe were murdered on December 30th. Their 2 children were left unharmed, 1 and 4, and the dog. Now, 2 weeks later, the ex-husband of Monique Tepe, Michael McKee, has been charged arrested and in court today for the 2 murders. Okay. Ex-husband Michael McKee charged with murder of Monique and Spencer Tepe. Let's watch this so nobody's confused.
Behind bars, accused of killing Spencer and Monique Tepe. Good evening. Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Isabel Hansen. The Tepes were shot and killed on December 30th inside their Wineland Park home. The couple's 2 young children, who were also in the home at the time of the shooting, were unharmed. Investigators have been on the hunt for the shooter for the past 11 days, and that search came to an end this morning when police arrested Monique's ex-husband, Michael McKee, in Illinois. We have team coverage for you tonight. Kirsten Lindquist has the latest information on the investigation and the man now charged with murder. And Steve Levine is learning more about how Monique and McKee's relationship came to an end. Let's start with Kirsten. She's live outside CPD headquarters. Kirsten, what do you know?
All right, so this is just going to quickly run why and how and what we're thinking so nobody that comes in gets confused, all right? And Jacqueline, I do appreciate when people ask questions because that means I didn't lay out the foundation properly.
Well, like you mentioned, Isabel, this has been a long and tedious search for Michael David McKee, who has now been charged with murder in the deaths of both Spencer and Monique Tepe. He has been arrested in Rockford, Illinois, and is currently in a Winnebago County jail, and he awaits extradition back to Ohio. Now, we have confirmed through the family that McKee is Monique's ex-husband. McKee is accused of shooting and killing Spencer and Monique in their Wineland Park home December 30th. Now, according to court documents obtained by ABC6, the Columbus Police Homicide Unit identified a suspect through surveillance video as well as a vehicle. That vehicle arrived just before and left just after the murders took place. That car was then traced to Rockford, Illinois, with evidence linking McKee to it following the homicides. Now, police have not released a possible motive in this case. Columbus police have posted on social media, quote, "We do not want to compromise the active
and see, that's why I am here today to talk about why. I dug and dug and dug. We're going to talk about deep-seated resentment and the psychology straight up of this monster. Okay, so thank you guys for being here. I love seeing everybody here, like seeing new people, and I like that people can come here and get the answers they want. So never feel like there's a question in that way. And we're gonna get to the court right after this, Jamie. Don't worry. Okay, we're getting there. I promise. So much love sent to you and your family. Thank you so much, Kel. I appreciate all of you. Guys, I had a rough morning today, and last night I cut my fingertip off. I was cooking. My wife asked me to go in and cook, and I literally cut my finger off, the tip of my finger. And then this morning I backed into her grooming truck, and then I forgot my keys at home. So I went all the way to 7-Eleven, and I couldn't start my car again because my keys were at home. So I've had such a rough morning today and last night, but you guys help. So thank you. Much love. We know we're good. You know, nothing's bad. We're all live, and that happens. But thank you guys for sending the love. It's very helpful. I did have a rough last 2 days. So let's go.
Ongoing case process, and additional information will be released when appropriate. The family also coming forward and releasing a statement of their own, saying in part, today's arrest represents an important step towards justice for both Spencer and Monique. Nothing can undo the devastating loss of 2 lives taken far too soon. Monique and Spencer remain at the center of our hearts, and we carry forward their love as we surround and protect the 2 children they leave behind. We will continue to honor their lives and the light that they brought to this world. Now, Spencer will be remembered as a dentist, while Monique was a stay-at-home mom, but both of them are described to be loving parents to their 2 young children. When we drove by the Tepe family home earlier this afternoon, we saw a growing memorial on their front steps of flowers and teddy bears. Neighbors who did not want to...
And we're getting straight into the why after this, and then we're going to go into the house. We're going to talk about the drive once we understand the why part of this, all right? And you had that too. Yeah, I've been sick too. Sick, and I cut my freaking finger off, man. I literally cut the whole tip of my finger off. But thank you. I'm here. I'm good. I'm healthy. And everybody in my family is. So thank you. And thank you, Allison. I do appreciate that. You have no idea.
Go on camera, just said they are devastated by this loss. Now, as far as McKee is concerned, our team spoke with a sergeant at the Winnebago County Jail. He awaits extradition. That extradition hearing is set for Monday. Funeral arrangements for the Tepe couple have also been set. A private service is scheduled for tomorrow. On your side, at Columbus Police Headquarters, I'm Kirsten Lindquist, ABC 6 News.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Steve Levine's looking into the suspect's divorce with Monique Tepe.
All right, now we're going to talk quickly about the divorce and then to the how. And Deb, you always make me smile. Thank you. I did not get it reattached. I just chopped it off. There was nothing to reattach. I cut the whole thing. It got stuck on the knife and I just put a Band-Aid on it. That's all I can do. All right, let's keep going. It is what it is.
Tepe and Steve, what did you find out?
Isabel, the couple was married for a little less than 2 years. They wed in August of 2015. This is a copy of the divorce decree approved by a judge in June 2017, just a month after Monique filed for divorce. The court filings indicated the divorce was amicable and listed no major contentious issues between Michael and Monique. The divorce.
And see, this is why I had a huge problem with this, is because we looked into all of this and nothing said there's red flags there. Absolutely nothing. But you know who did know about it? The family. And it's weird because they didn't say anything. I did not walk under a ladder, and I'm not going to walk under a ladder today because I already messed up my bumper, cut off my finger, left my keys at home. Man, I don't know what else can happen, but we're just going to go with that. Now we're here presenting true crime, and boy, do we want justice, not only for Monique and Spencer Tepe, but the 1 and 4-year-old Tepe kids. What do they know? We're going to talk about that too. Don't you worry. All right.
Decree stated Monique was awarded the divorce on grounds the parties were incompatible, and Monique was entitled to a divorce. The couple was separated at the time McKee awarded their Virginia home the two had been living in while they were married. McKee was in residency at a Roanoke hospital when the couple divorced. Monique living in Westerville when the divorce was finalized. The couple had no children and no spousal support was awarded.
Nothing.
The agreement included a standard mutual temporary restraining order, which is common for divorces such as this that relate to assets and property. Franklin County Court records indicated a hearing was scheduled in September related to this divorce, but
she did not have an RO against the ex-husband, but they did just talk about there was an RO in the divorce. So the RO was from the actual divorce, which this guy, so I guess, Truth Seeker Jacqueline, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. They had a restraining order against each other, but they chalked it up as it being a just a divorce and just a technicality. But now I think it's much different. So good question. And yes, they did have a restraining order on each other, which I didn't know until today. So that might have had a red flag. So the answer is yes. Shoot for the stars. You're so sweet. Mwah. Big kisses, big hugs. Thank you so much. You're awesome. There were children, not the exes. Bucci Mane. They were her children. He killed both of them and left the kids sleeping in the house and the dog. But they didn't have assets. They didn't have bank accounts. They didn't have anything. No dogs, no pets, no nothing. They were only married for 7 months. I don't understand, but we will. We're going to talk about this doctor.
No information was listed in the file or in court records. I did reach out earlier this week to the attorney who handled Monique's divorce and asked about that hearing, but I did not hear back. McGee graduated from Ohio State in 2009 and received a medical degree from there in 2014. Records show McKee had a fellowship at the University of Maryland and worked in Las Vegas as a vascular surgeon. McKee also licensed in California, and he most recently had been living in Chicago and working in the Rockford, Illinois area. On your side, Steve Levine.
See, he was in Illinois. Now, guys, he did remarry, and I believe he married just for a green card. And he actually has an ex-husband, and I think his name, you spell it Heidi. Remember, we talked about this on my show before. Someone said, "Oh, he's married to a man," and I said, "Well, he's gay. Then why does he care?" Well, he wasn't gay. He married some guy named Heidi that lives in Columbus, Ohio. So maybe he was with him, but I don't think so because they tracked him all the way back to Ohio, Tiff. So no, he's not married now. He was married to a man, though. All right. So that's crazy. That is crazy. And I just thought, oh, he's gay. He's not going to mess with her. Why would he? All right. Now, guys, before we get into anything else, let's talk about the deep-seated resentment. And then we're going to get into the absolute psychology of Michael McKee. All right. So we can understand it. And then when we look at this crazy man driving 5 hours and 42 minutes with no traffic, what would make you do that after 10 or 8 to 10 years where's the motive? You'll see.
Twist in the double homicide of an Ohio dentist and his wife that happened just before New Year's. A suspect now charged and arrested, and we are learning he was previously married to one of the victims. Michael McKee is now facing 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of Spencer and Monique Tepe. Now, he is Monique's ex-husband. The couple was found fatally shot in their Ohio home while their 2 children and the dog were unharmed inside. Police were able to zero in on him as a suspect because of surveillance video in the neighborhood around the time the couple was murdered. Now, from those videos,
Now listen, she owed him $1,200, Chrissy. You're telling me a surgeon is gonna murder a couple over $1,200? Absolutely not. And that's why my red flags didn't go up. I was like, $1,200? That's chump change. You can literally go out and thank you, Shoot for the Stars. I appreciate you. You're awesome. Yeah, what do you call that? $1,200 is a night of sushi. It take your best buds to a night of sushi and some sake. $1,200 is nothing. No, but they did own, and I'm not saying it like towards you. I'm just all hyped up. What I'm saying is $1,200 that she owed is crazy. But I have family that's local, and some of the things that are being posted in chat is incorrect. I can't even see people in chat, so I hope that you guys understand that my views are mine on the show, and the people in chat, I can't see 200 people chatting, so I hope that you guys don't take people in chat for what I mean. It's all just suppositions, all right? Yeah, sushi chump change, $1,200. Just wanted to meet your goal. Thank you so much, my girl. I appreciate it. You're awesome. Oh yeah, so whatever people are saying in chat is just conversational. I don't think anybody really knows much more than what's out there.
they tracked McKee's vehicle, finding it in Rockford, Illinois. McKee is expected to appear in court in Illinois tomorrow, Monday. A new development tonight, a community coming together to honor Spencer and Monique for their funeral that took place today. And for more, we are joined by Jennifer Coffendorfer tonight, law and justice contributor for News Nation and former special agent with the FBI. Jennifer, thanks for joining us on this case.
Thanks for having me.
And one of the details early on in this investigation, both the children were found physically unharmed inside of the house. No signs of forced entry at that home. What does that information immediately indicate about the person who did this?
Well, it indicated certainly that they knew this couple well, that they had staked out the location well. It was also very clear they knew where the camera locations were because they evaded a lot of camera coverage, it would seem.
And that's a perfect comment, Chrissy. You know why that's a perfect comment? Because that shows what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is how much he despised the couple. And for him to have a measly $1,200 and to charge her for to start adding on interest just means he was trying to keep that connection and punish her, which is why we're getting into the psychology today, because he was trying to punish her. I didn't want to go over the documents of the divorce because really there wasn't that much, in my opinion, to like stick out minus the $1,200. But when you say this, it's like, dude, this guy was really just wanting to get her back at any cost. All right. The local talk is that he filed a motion recently. Yes, he did. He did file a motion recently in September. That was very recent in September. He was very petty. That goes to show you that when we get into the psychology of who he is and the crime that he committed.
And so somehow he came across that entry code to enter the residence.
You hear that?
McKee himself, a vascular surgeon in Illinois. And
that's another thing. I'm going to show you inside the house later to show you that he absolutely had to have used a code key. And he was not the only person that had that. The guy that saw that called 911 and saw Spencer dead on the floor had to have been in the house. I don't know if I got your emails, my friend. When did you send them and to which email? All right.
California, according to the Columbus Dispatch, his medical license record showing no disciplinary history or no malpractice there. And then his criminal records only showing traffic-related tickets in the past. He has been charged. He has not been convicted. Are you surprised by the previous profile of this suspect?
Not really. When I look at this case, we knew it was going to be very personal for
Very personal, targeted attack. And Chrissy, listen up. That's how I believe they know that these people were killed at 3:52 a.m. on the dot because of the cameras that were inside of the house. All right, let's keep going.
somebody to go up in the bedroom and kill these individuals with a gun. So we knew it was very personal, somebody who knew them. What is interesting, though, this divorce happened about 9 years ago. They were married for such a brief time, only 7 months. And so that is strange, but I think it was a deep seated resentment and hate that just built up.
And guys, that is just off the top of my head and off the top of, let's say, Chrissy's head, where she tells us that he charged her for petty $1,200. I'm going to put interest on top of it. Now, if it were I and I was going through a divorce, I would say, I don't care about the $1,200. I just want to be done with this. I sure wouldn't drag it out and start adding things onto it. And that's a good supposition. Clark saw the big jaw and says it could be roid rage. So again, these are just suppositions. We don't have toxicology or anything like that to say that for sure.
Finally came to this conclusion.
And we know the murders happened just before the couple was about to celebrate an anniversary. I mean, is there anything to that timing that is significant or jumping out to you?
I think it could be. You know, when I look back at the Brown University shootings, Natasha, remember that individual, now that we have his sort of manifesto of why he did it, he had a deep seated resentment that stayed with him for 3 years. I think that this could be a situation that's very similar, that it just built up over time and finally came to a head. And probably that anniversary could have been part of the reason.
Talk to me more about how this suspect was identified and found, because you say he did seem to have some knowledge of surveillance cameras and trying to evade them, but he was ultimately found, interestingly, through surveillance footage in that neighborhood that police used. They saw him entering around the time before this was suspected to happen.
Feel free to chime in the bushes, truth seeker Jacqueline. We love your comments. They're so helpful. I love when you guys have this input that when you're watching at other channels, it's very helpful for the people that haven't been updated, and it challenges me to discuss what you want to talk about. How long did they think he was in the house? Well, listen, 3:52 a.m. I don't have an exact time, but if they said the killings were at 3:52 a.m. and they're saying that this was between 2 and 5 a.m. I don't think he was. I don't have an answer how long he was in the house. That is going to come, but he had to have been out of the house within 15 to 20 minutes. What we're looking at now at the time frame, we'll get into that, but I don't have an exact answer. There's no way to know that yet.
And then leaving afterwards. And then they used all of this to track his vehicle during a 10-day manhunt. Walk us through what that investigation looks like.
Thank you.
Right, exactly, Natasha. He couldn't evade all the cameras. There were just too many ring cameras and street cameras. And that footage from that alley between 2 and 5 a.m. was critical for law enforcement. Once they had him on camera, they could continue.
And you see that again, I knew that they were going to come out with an arrest soon, and they were being hush hush because they had more video surveillance. There's no possible way not to have video surveillance from that point of view, and what they showed us and the time frame. They knew. They just needed to get everything together. Remember, they had to put the charging document, and they had to decide on what they were going. The charges were. They had a lot to do before this. There's a lot of paperwork on this case, which I'll show you towards the end, because I want to get into the psychology of this monster. And look at Ohio, where they're showing, and look at the Tepe's home. Again, the drive is 5 hours and 42 minutes with no traffic. And he drove home. That's where they tracked him to.
Following that path that he took, which ultimately led to the vehicle he entered. That vehicle he entered then was registered to him. It was his vehicle, and they found him in Illinois. So great police work in tracking through that video surveillance.
And obviously, this case so tragic, and one thinks about these two young children, the dog in the house. Is there anything that we should be taking away from a case like this?
I think the one thing is if there is a domestic situation that just keeps on lingering, and I would believe it's going to come out that some people knew about maybe some issues, maybe a recontract, maybe had some concern, that they really have to take these things seriously.
And if they did have a serious issue, it makes me wonder why it took 2 weeks to even do that. Now, Joseph Morgan says he didn't even try to fake license plate on his own getaway car, and that's why we're talking about the psychology of that monster today, because everything he did was sloppy. Even though it's completely going to be charged as premeditated, because it was premeditated, he could have done a lot. He could have rented a rental car, changed the license plate. He could have took a flight and disguised his flight as going somewhere else, and then he didn't do any of that. What's going on in his head? That's what we're talking about, because people don't do that. People don't snap and drive 6 hours, right? Because by the time they get there, well, that's premeditated.
This individual was obviously, if it ends up being him, very disturbed.
And tell me more about that, Jennifer. If someone like the wife, your Monique, were to have reached out to you before this happened and say, "I'm concerned. I have an ex. He's not letting us be," what would you tell them to do?
Well, first of all, I would say obviously get rid of all contact, block everything, don't let them communicate. Secondarily, I would say get rid of those punch pad entry codes. Too many people likely had that. They had their wedding there. You need deadbolts, you need lock.
Now, guys, I'm also going to make a supposition about their 5-year anniversary coming up and possibly what set him off. Now, remember, just months before in September, he came back with some weird court filing about their divorce, which makes no sense to me because it had already been 8 years. So, Angel, yes, 8 years he stewed on it and plotted revenge. But we're going to get into his mind because that just doesn't seem to work that way. Life doesn't work that way. And even the red flags weren't there for me. But did the brother know? I mean, I wonder if anybody named him. We heard the 911 calls where they said they would be particularly concerned if Monique didn't pick up the phone. But what for? Because they knew that he was stalking her and seething and hated her.
On your doors that are secure, that no one knows except for your family. Those were the two major things that I think might have led to this.
Jennifer Coffendorfer, appreciate the analysis as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you for watching.
All right. Now, you guys, the basic, okay, deep seething, anger. He was stewing on this for years, probably watching them online and just eating him up. The 5-year anniversary was coming. It was all over Facebook. He knew it. Everybody knew it. The codes didn't change. People went in and out of the house. He more than likely had the code. Maybe it was their wedding date, guys. Maybe the code was their freaking wedding date or the first child's birthday. All right. What did he think was going to happen to the kids? Just because they weren't killed doesn't mean they were safe. Nutball. All right, now we're getting into the psychology, guys. And you're right. We may never know from him what the motive is going to be. But when you start looking at the psychology of a person that does this and each thing that they did in the crime, it's going to give you a better idea of why the dentist and his wife were murdered by this man. All right. She was low-key victim blaming. Now, I don't think she was victim blaming. I think she's just saying, like, dude, I'm telling you, I'm telling everybody, don't leave code. Get rid of the codes for anybody. All right. Good to catch a live. Darcy, thank you so much. I appreciate that. We don't know if he did drugs. Clar's looking at his jawline, the doctor's jawline, and people that have jawlines like that a lot of times will be on steroids. And if you look at the picture there, he has a big jaw, like way back when you see him, he had a big jaw. It looks a lot more pronounced nowadays, maybe because he's older, but we don't know. We don't know if he was on roids and that's what kicked up the deep seething, but we're going to get into it and what his mind was thinking, why he did that. Now, I think she was saying Jennifer Coffendorfer was low-key victim blaming when she said, don't use keypads. They used keypads. I think she's just saying like, hey, people, you shouldn't use keypads because people know the key, especially when you come in and out and they go, that happens. Yeah, he's like quagmire jaw like Brian Walsh. Right. All right, let's get into psychology. This monster has now been charged with aggravated murder, premeditated ×2, and he can be facing the death penalty. All right, it is available in Ohio. Yeah, his mouth is tiny compared to his head, and he has a jaw like that. Yeah, you really don't know what's going on in people's head, but we're gonna get a good idea right now. All right. Let's get back to that. I just wanted to show you what he looked like and whatever. He has a blockhead. He's a blockhead, but he's Buzz Lightyear, guys. Steroids make a jaw bigger. And yeah, we can make suppositions. We don't know that. All right, listen, this guy, it's called the clinical file, why the dentist and his wife were murdered.
The backstory. I don't just talk about the crimes. I talk about the psychology behind the crimes and the mysteries that captivate us. I look beyond the facts of the case to understand the why of the crime. My analysis is based on my speculations, is not a diagnosis of anyone involved in this case. What internal narrative allows a person to track a vehicle across state lines to commit a double execution?
And that's what we're going over for the next half an hour, the psychology of what went on in this guy's mind as he drove over 6 hours. Again, I'm going to put you back on the map after this and show you guys he could have took a plane. He could have took an hour and 35-minute plane. He could have done so many things differently, but he did this. This is why right here we're breaking that down.
While young children sleep nearby. Is it possible for a perpetrator to harbor a grudge for nearly a decade, allowing it to fester into a lethal compulsion?
Yep.
We have to look at the psychological profile of an intruder.
And do me a favor, guys. We have 211 people in here. Would you hit the like button? It's free. You got to get me back in the algorithm. I took off like almost a week or a week and a half during Christmas, and my algorithm sucks right now, but y'all can help me. I'm going to show you that drive. The fact that he drove almost 6 hours there and 6 hours after shows you he's insane. Right, but he knew what he was doing. It was absolutely premeditated. We're going to go into court after this.
Intruder who seemingly understands the layout of a home and the vulnerability of his targets.
And we're going to look at the layout of the home as well. So stay here, guys.
This case forces us to ask if the perpetrator experienced a psychological snap, or if this was a culmination of a long, calculated descent into predatory behavior. How does a person reconcile a past life with a present act of an extreme violence? And what does it say about their ability to mask their true intentions? And if a suspect flees 500 miles immediately after the crime, are they running from the law, or are they running from the reality of what they have become? We're going to
look, he was so sloppy. He was so sloppy, and they were so in love on the surface of looking at their Facebook. Be careful, guys. Be careful. Thank you, Falconess Australia. You do a great show, Guilty of Crime. Well, thank you. Much love to you. Appreciate you. Hit that like button. Let's get back in the algorithm.
Examine the behavioral evidence that led police from the quiet Columbus Street all the way to Rockford, Illinois. We're going to look at a suspect who would choose a window between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. to destroy a family, leaving behind no sign of forced entry. The facts of this case solidified on January 10, 2026.
Now, listen, guys, and Eileen, listen, that's a possibility. They're also talking about Christmas time, and when people are lonely at Christmas and they're feeling bad and they've got these thoughts going on, the cold, then that drives them to do things as well. So that is absolutely, we had that discussion, and that's absolutely plausible that he went over there for Christmas, drove by, and started fixating on Monique and Spencer Tepe at that time, right? Now, Doris Miller, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker. We're getting to that goal. Catch up on that too. 1.5. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is a crappy morning, but we're here now and we're alive, so we're good.
An arrest warrant was filled for a 39-year-old Michael McKee. McKee is now charged with 2 counts of murder in the deaths of 37-year-old Spencer Tepe and 39-year-old Monique Tepe. The investigation began on Tuesday morning, December 30th, 2025, in the Wyland Park neighborhood of Columbus, Ohio. Officers were dispatched to a home in the 1400 block of North 4th Street after Spencer, a dentist, failed to arrive for his morning appointments. When police entered the residence, they discovered a scene that speaks to a high level of emotional detachment and specific intent. Spencer and Monique were found in the upstairs area of the home, both victims of a fatal gunshot wounds.
Now listen, guys, hold on.
jarring
The most jarring, he's going to say, here's the thing I want to explain to you as well. Listen, emotionally detached is spot on, because I thought that Spencer Tepe, and he might still be, Spencer might have been the target in this. Maybe, just maybe, Michael McKee saw Spencer as being the thing that was in the way from him being happy, because he went into that house and he shot Spencer several times. He did an overkill, whereas to Monique, he shot her once done and done, said, and that was it. So totally detached from the situation. It should have been the other way around. According to psychology, he should have technically overkilled on Monique and then just shot Spencer to get him out of the way. But I think that he saw Spencer as the person that was in the way from him being happy. And that's what we're talking about. What was going through his mind psychologically at this point.
Psychological indicator is the presence of their two children, a 4-year-old girl and a 7-month-old baby, who were physically unharmed. From a mental health perspective, we must analyze the suspect's ability to focus entirely on the adult target while ignoring the helpless witness in the next room. This suggests a perpetrator who may have a highly compartmentalized psyche, separating his perceived mission from the collateral trauma of the children. This level of compartmentalization is often seen in individuals who view their victims as objects rather than people. To this time,
and again, he might have just saw her as an object where I'm going to take her out. I'm just going to shoot her once. I really love her and I despise her at the same time. And I don't want to see those cold, ugly eyes looking back at me after I killed them. But this guy, this guy, he ruined my life. He's the one that's making me so I'm not with her. He's the one, right? That's how I see it. Now, why did the dog not bark? We don't know that the dog didn't bark. However, he's a golden, the dog's like a golden doodle or a golden, those dogs are family dogs. And if they've seen somebody once or twice, they're pretty chill. They're not going to like attack you. And I'll show you the inside of the house later so you can see the dog might have been chilling with the kids. We don't know, but we don't have anything to say the dog was barking a whole bunch. No. Jay, you're so kind and caring. Well, thank you, Tracy Smith. I do appreciate it. Thank you for getting toward helping us past our goal. Has something to do with the kids. We're going to talk about the kids and what they know after, but I don't think it has anything to do with the kids. I think when he psychologically snapped and he felt like he needed to take Spencer out to move, if he gets rid of Spencer, his life's going to be all better. But he didn't want to kill the kids. There's people that just don't want to do that. It's a ethics thing. We'll talk about that.
Type of offender, the children are simply part of the background, like furniture, because they do not play in the role in the perpetrator's internal conflict.
Yes.
The lack of forced entry is a critical behavior clue that often points toward a perpetrator who either had access or a psychological familiarity of the home. It implies a sense of comfort and entitlement, as if the offender felt they still had a right to enter that space. In mental health terms, this could be linked to a failure to recognize boundaries, a common trait in those with narcissistic or antisocial personality features. Investigators used neighborhood surveillance video to identify a vehicle that arrived just before the shootings and left shortly after. The vehicle was eventually tracked to Rockford, Illinois, where police had found evidence linking it directly to Michael McKee. As a therapist, I look at this geographic flight as a clear sign of post-offense distress, even if the act itself was executed with calm precision. The suspect didn't just leave the scene, he fled nearly 500 miles, likely hoping the distance would provide a psychological.
But listen, guys, they don't just have circumstantial evidence, my friends. He left 9mm casings back, and those are the bullet casings from the actual shooting. And I guarantee you that's going to either match up with a weapon that they're going to find, or they're going to find that same ammo in his house. There's a lot of evidence that's not going to be circumstantial. And Valerie, you're right. You say the dog sleeps with the daughter, and most kids have sound machines in the room, so may have not heard anything. And it happened at 3:52 in the morning when you're in your best REM sleep, guys. If you look at your sleep patterns and you look at your best REM time, that's the time that is your best. from 2 to 5 a.m., particularly 3 to 4 a.m. You're sleeping deep sleep. He's a doctor. Did he know that? All right, let's keep going.
Logical buffer from the crime. This flight shows a realization of consequences, which tells us the suspect was not experiencing a break from reality. He knew exactly what he had done, and he knew that that was a violation of both the law and social order. McKee was reportedly Monique's ex-husband, with their divorce having been finalized back in 2017. If the suspect harbored a grievance for 8 years, we're looking at a psychological phenomenon known as nurtured resentment. Nurtured resentment is like a slow burning fire that an individual intentionally feeds with negative thoughts.
And this gives you a way better idea when you're looking at this and watching him in court and seeing this played out. You're like, oh, that makes the most sense. I can't even believe I didn't think about that. Now, on the surface, it's obviously resentment and anger, but how do you carry that for so long? Well, that's how you carry it so long. And that happens. It tends to happen. You got to remember this guy, Michael McKee, was in school. He was in school to become a doctor when they were getting married at the time, and he was moving forward, doing his practice, whatever he needed to do. Maybe he just let it sit there, and then it festered more. The holidays came. They were going to be at their 5-year anniversary, and he just said, "This is it. I'm done."
And memories. Every time the offender saw a social media post or heard
See?
the news of the victim's happiness, it
Yes.
was like adding fuel to the
The
fire.
fire.
This is when an individual allows past perceived slights to grow into an obsession, eventually viewing the victims not as people, but as obstacles to their own peace.
Ooh, obstacles.
Why would someone wait nearly a decade to act in such dark impulse?
Again, guys, I think Spencer was the obstacle in his mind to being happy. If Spencer weren't there to give her a fancy house and the lifestyle and the kids and that beautiful wedding and the 5-year, then he would be able to XYZ in his mind. All right. So yes, bam. That's what I'm talking about. There's no other explanation for this 8 years later to be seething for this long after a marriage, med school, and all this. That's the only explanation you can find.
Often a stressor
Makes no
event in the
sense.
perpetrator's current life, such as financial loss
Yep.
or another failed relationship, can trigger a lapse into old obsessions. Psychologically, we call this a catalyst, an event that makes the offender feel they have nothing left to lose. When someone feels they are at the rock bottom, they often look for someone to blame for their current state. In
Spencer.
this case, it appears the blame was placed squarely on a woman who had moved on with a man who represented everything.
And maybe he did blame her, but when you look at the bodies and the way that there was overkill to Spencer versus the one shot to her, it shows me that even though he was seething for his ex Monique, and maybe Spencer tried to fight him back, and that's why we don't know that either. He could have gotten more brutal because Spencer's the physical threat and Monique was not.
The offender lacked. The shooter used 9mm ammunition, and while Spencer was shot multiple times, Monique was shot once in the chest. This variation in the number of shots can sometimes indicate a specific hierarchy of rage or a different psychological relationship with each victim. In many cases of domestic adjacent violence, the primary target received more overkill, which acts as a physical manifestation of the killer's internal fury. However, a single shot can also represent a different kind of psychological finality, a shutdown of the person the offender once claimed to love. We must also consider the psychological significance of the family dog, a golden doodle who was left alive and unharmed.
See, I told you we're going to get into all that. We're going to get into why the dog was left unharmed. He could have just ruthlessly killed the dog just to be like, I'm just ending this family. I don't want to take the kid's life, so I'm not that person. But, right, he could have done that. And there's a reason for everything, in my opinion, and why this is so premeditated. All right, true crime makes me want to be single for the rest of my life. Clementine, right? You just never know, man. And stay off of Facebook because that's what happens. Just kidding.
To a predatory mind, a dog or a child may be viewed as non-combatants, further
bestie.
proving that this was a targeted strike rather than a random act of madness. This selectivity is a major red flag because it shows the offender was able to make a conscious choices throughout the entire event. They weren't blinded by rage. They were making calculated decisions about who deserved to die and who deserved to live.
Right.
The suspect's behavior in the alleyway, captured on the Nest camera, showed a person moving with a deliberate and steady pace in a freezing temperature. This indicates a high level of executive function during the commission of a crime, meaning the person was not under the influence of a psychotic break. Executive function allows.
See, and that's another thing. Like, he calmly walked back to his car where they were able to track him. Now, guys, if you're going to commit a crime like this, remember, every single city, state, even the small towns now has cameras everywhere. I knew when they put out that person of interest that when they found the person of interest that they were going to find a killer. There's no reason for anybody to be out at 2 to 5 in the morning walking in 23-degree weather unless you're there for a purpose. So I knew that once they found that guy, they would find either who did it or an accomplice, but it's just not plausible. That's like me having desert cameras in the desert, and it's 115 degrees in the desert, and you see one person all day at a specific time. Nobody's going to be out there walking in the freaking desert in the heat. Same thing, same difference. It just doesn't happen. So that's why I knew that they knew that person of interest had to either be the person or connected to the person. No way.
Allows a person to plan, to focus attention, and remember instructions. To carry out a double murder, navigate a home, and successfully flee the state requires a brain that is fully functioning at a very high level of organization. Instead, they were likely operating under a distorted logic where the murders felt like a necessary or even just conclusion to their internal narrative. This distorted logic is often fueled by a sense of perceived injustice. The offender convinces themselves that they are the true victim and that their actions, even violent actions, are merely a form of evening the score. Spencer's co-workers were the first to sound the alarm, describing him as a man whose reliability was a cornerstone.
Now, I want you guys to understand that these coworkers are probably going to be called as witnesses because they probably know about the dynamics between Michael McKee and Monique in the way that when they called, it was very urgent that they called, so urgent that the coworkers not only called, but went in the freaking house and found him, Spencer, dead, and Monique, that they knew something was going on in the connection of Michael McKee and Monique to a point where we thought it was them. We thought that maybe someone in the office had done something to them, and then like, oh, you gotta do welfare check, when that wasn't in fact at all what happened. What that probably happened is they knew that there was this obsession with Michael and Monique, and just months before she had to go to court about the divorce and just things going on to the point where we thought they were guilty. All right, let's keep going.
Of his personality. He was a dentist who cared for his patients and was deeply involved in mentoring through big brothers and big sisters. When a person with a high degree of conscientiousness goes missing, the psychological ripple effect is immediate and profound for those around them. Yeah. The sudden absence of such a stable person creates an immediate psychological alarm in the community. The neighbor who called 911 after hearing children crying inside the home highlights the tragic aftermath left by the suspect's lack of empathy. The children were left in the house for hours with their deceased parents, an experience that creates a level of trauma that is difficult to fathom.
And we're going to talk about that later on too, but here's the thing. You got to imagine they were in the house for about 6 hours, guys. 6 hours. If the parents were killed at 3:52 a.m. and the first welfare check started at 9:03 a.m., but they went to the wrong house, and by the time the coworkers had made it into the house, it was 10:03 that they saw a body. That is over 6 hours that those children were in the house. They had woken up at some point, etc. All right, let's keep going.
A perpetrator who can walk away from the sound of a sobbing infant possesses a chilling degree of affective blunting. Affective blunting is a reduction of the intensity of the individual's emotional response. In this context, it means the offender heard the cries and felt nothing, no guilt, no urge to help, and no fear of being caught. This is a state where the emotional signals that normally trigger human compassion are simply ignored or suppressed. The police chief noted that the arrest warrant was the result of meticulous work connecting digital evidence to physical locations. The suspect's move to Illinois suggests that he may have been trying to return to a safe zone or a place where he felt he could reestablish his mask of normalcy. Fleeing to a familiar location is a common psychological behavior for offenders who are trying to reset their.
Now, guys, whenever I do a true crime, every day when I do an episode, I always put the link and the person in chat. So go to my description. If one of the mods wants to drop a link, this guy's fairly new. It's called The Clinical File, and he has less than 10,000 subscribers. But I really love his evaluation of this and other cases. So go check that out. Subscribe to him. It's all in the details of the case in the description.
Lives. They hope that by surrounding themselves with old habits and familiar faces, they can drown out the memory of the crime. However, the psychological leakage of such a crime, the subtle changes in behavior after the act, often gives away even the most careful offenders. Leakage can include increased irritability, social withdrawal, or an obsession with news reports about the crime. Family members and friends have described Spencer and Monique as being madly in love, having married in 2021 and building a life of service. Monique was an educator who spent her life helping children reach their full potential. Their joy and success may have served as a psychological trigger for someone who felt stuck in their own life or bitterness about the past. As a clinician, I often see how the happiness of others can be perceived as an active insult to an.
And guys, this is not just an isolated case where something like this happens. It's isolated in the way that normally it doesn't compute for someone that wasn't with somebody for 8 to 10 years. Why would they do that? But I gotta tell you guys, just on a daily basis, people are jealous. People are going through whatever they go through, and we have no idea. And when they're looking at us online, even if we're on Facebook, which we know we only highlight the good things about our life, right? We're not getting on there and saying, I just got in a fight with my husband, or I just got in a fight with my wife, or my kids just got put on a timeout and got in trouble. We don't put that stuff. We put the beautiful, happy moments that look framed like everything's perfect, and people look at that and they seethe over it. Do I know why? No. Do I want to know why everybody does that? No. But it's safer just not to do that. You say I'm a bitch on Facebook. Trust me, I learned my lesson with this channel. I'm not on social media like that anymore.
Individuals struggling with a personality disorder. This is especially true if the offender feels that the victim took the life that they were supposed to have. The investigation into Michael McKee continues as authorities process the vehicle and forensic evidence found in Illinois. Every piece of evidence gathered will help build a behavioral timeline of the suspect's movements and state of mind. This is a case of a stark example of how the past can sometimes reach forward into the present with devastating consequences. It teaches us that psychological wounds, if left untreated and allowed to fester, can turn into a dangerous obsession. The psychological flags in this case, the long-term stalking, the calculated timing, and the clinical detachment will be studied for years. Behavioral analysis will look at the choice of weapon, the time of day, and the lack of a struggle as clues to the offender's personality. The fact that the shooter was an ex-husband brings the element of possessive stalking.
And guess what, guys? I have a feeling that this monster is not going to want to have the death penalty. So there's a possibility that he may just make a plea deal and tell us what happened or what triggered. Now, is he going to lie about it? He's not going to say, I'm an obsessed stalker that did this and that. But without getting the death penalty, if he does not ultimately take some sort of plea deal, he can be facing the death penalty in Ohio. That's kind of a death penalty case. The 2 aggravated murders, and then with the children in the house, there's a lot of the aggravating factors is what make it. The fact that he drove almost 6 hours and then there's a lot of factors in it that push towards the death penalty. Oh, there's a lot of receipts, I'm sure.
Where the offender cannot accept the victim's autonomy. This type of stalker believes that if they cannot have the person, then no one else should be allowed to either. The focus now shifts to the recovery of the children in the pursuit of justice for a family that was a pillar of their community. The 4-year-old and the 17-month-old are now at the center of a massive support network. but the attachment trauma they may have suffered could be severe. As they grow older, they will likely need specialized care to process the loss of their parents in such a violent manner. As we piece together the motives, we're reminded that the most dangerous threats are often come from those who had once had a place in the inner circle.
Exactly, guys. Be aware of that, please, because I told you 75% of all crimes are committed by somebody you know and somebody that's in your circle, somebody that may have observed you, somebody that may have been at a party that you handed a drink to once. That is what happens. People don't just randomly, most of the time, right? Unless you're like, Jeffrey Dahmer and you're going to look for the hunt and the kill. But 90 or 75% of the time, it's somebody you know in your circle that fixates on you, and right, they study what you do, they know where you are, they know your birthdays, your children's birthday, your wedding date. Why do they know that? Because we put it on Facebook and everybody knows it.
It's a terrifying thought, but from a psychological perspective, familiarity provides a predator with an ultimate camouflage. The mask of a former spouse or a normal citizen can hide a depth of rage that is invisible until it's too late. The community of Columbus continues to mourn two people who were dedicated to making the world a better place. We must honor their memory by staying aware and understanding the mental health indicators that precede such tragedies. By looking beyond the surface of the crime, we can begin to understand the complex and often dark reality of the human mind. The capture of Michael McKee in Illinois is just the beginning of a long legal and psychological process. We'll be watching closely as more details of his state of mind and his actions following the crime come to light. It's often the post-crime behavior that the true personality of the offender is finally revealed without the mask. This case is such a tragedy when you think.
Let me put it back on there while I talk about him for a second. There's his big blockhead. And Valerie, you know what? I don't think that that's going to be the case, only because, and a lot of people don't even know what that means, right? You say he's not going to waive his right to a speedy trial. Is that what you said? Which means that he is going to stick to he wants to have a speedy trial, and he's going to insist that the court follow the legal time limits and bring his case to trial quickly instead of allowing delays. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to allow as many delays as possible, because that's how you get a more fair trial, according to the defense. If he starts going now and they have all the witnesses and all the information and all that, he's not going to have much of a defense. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think that he's going to waive his right to a speedy trial, and then they're going to delay. That's usually the strategy. All right. I don't know if he had surgery scheduled. We haven't looked that far into it yet. They don't really tell you about their work schedule, and I haven't heard anything.
This case is such a tragedy when you think about it. We don't know the relationship of Monica and McKee after they got divorced, but it does appear that he was harboring a lot of rage, a lot of anger, specifically towards Spencer, Monica's new husband. This deep-seated, long-standing resentment can fester and build. And without getting help, going to see a therapist with your anger and the resentment and the hurt and the pain, without getting treatment, it will continue to build and reach levels of explosion like we're seeing here. The tragedy of the kids losing their parents in such a way, they may not remember all the details, but certainly their bodies will.
And guys, they've had to be interviewed already, and there's a certain way in which a person interviews children that will also bring those things back up. Because here's a double-edged sword. You don't want the children to remember because you don't want trauma, but you want them to remember so they can tell you what they know, and it can solidify this conviction. So it's a double-edged sword. They're not going to want the children to forget or not, but they've already, I guarantee you, they've already interviewed them, and they've interviewed them in a particular way to bring their memories out so they know. Yeah, that's patient confidentiality. That's why we wouldn't know about it. All right.
Relive all of the scenes because it's being shared on the news everywhere.
And don't worry, we're getting into the court next so you guys can see what happened today. All right. Oh, you want to find out how you interview a 1-year-old? We're going to get into that after we go to court. I'm going to show you how you interview a 1-year-old, a 4-year-old, and children in general. So stay here. You might want to stay here if that's what you want to talk about. Those are my topics today. Why the dentist and his wife were murdered by this monster, Michael McKee, particularly, and how the children are interviewed.
As they reach an age where they get older, my hope is that they'll get help. The parents and grandparents, families, aunts and uncles are really struggling, as you can imagine. This case has so many ripple effects, and yet the perpetrator was single focused. They weren't thinking about what might happen after the fact or how people would feel.
True, Joseph Morgan.
So what did you think about this case? Were there any elements that stood out to you? If you want more mental health analysis of true crime stories like this one, be sure to subscribe for more. And if you found this case compelling, be sure to watch.
We got you, man. We subscribe. You're in the description, and I like your style already, buddy. All right, let me just take a look real quick, and then we're going to hop into court, and then we're going to talk about the children and how they're interviewed. But first, let me just jump to this because I just wanted you to quickly see the charges that were upgraded today. We're going to go into court and see that they are upgraded from murder to aggravated premeditated. All right, there's the picture of Monique and Spencer, and then there's some of the documents, the charging documents here, the complaint, the new complaint that's filed. Now, I have all of those, and I'll put that up on Ghost. By the way, Ghost is one of those platforms where we can cover other cases and not take up the whole episode. So I'm going to start showing you those at the end and all the missing people and cases that we can't get to every day. Anyhow, so here's the complaint, and this complaint is for Monique Tepe. This is a new complaint filed January 11th, 2026. That was yesterday. And it talks about December 30th when he took their lives purposely with prior calculation and design, cause of death to another, Monique Tepe, by means of shooting the victim. Now, this says multiple times with the firearm, but we know it was one for her particularly. Sworn on yesterday, day 11 of January 11th, 2026, signed by the clerk deputy court. Not a lot in here, but we can see that it was upgraded to aggravated murder rather than just simply murder, which means there's aggravating factors, including the children, the drive that it took to get there, and the premeditation. Right now, that's for Monique. That's the charging, the complaint filed yesterday, and then there's a complaint filed yesterday for Spencer Tepe, and it says the same thing essentially: purposely with prior calculation and design, cause of death to another, Spencer Tepe, by means of shooting the victim multiple times with the firearm. Right? Versus like strangulation or versus, stab wounds or any of that. It was clean and calculated, in my opinion, when you take a 9mm, shoot somebody multiple times in the chest and even once in the chest. Cold and very calculating. Again, same case number, aggravated, and signed yesterday. All right, so let's drop that. I just wanted you to see some of that. Let me show you the drive, and then we're going to get into court, and then we will talk about the kids. All right, let's take a look at that drive really quickly. I showed it earlier, but as you can see, you can get there multiple ways, and that's the way that he went. All right, I don't know if I'll cover Rex Heuermann. I've covered it before. If you guys want me to cover it, I certainly can. You guys just gotta let me know. Okay, so listen, that's the drive that he took, and he took that drive home as well. So we're talking about 1400 North 4th Street, Columbus, Ohio. So this is from the crime scene back home. It took 5 hours and 37 minutes. It's 362 miles, and they're only showing us the route here, that with fastest route now due to traffic conditions. In traffic conditions, guys, this could be 6 hours. It could be 8. Look at that route there. I mean, that is definitely an aggravated, premeditated murder when you're taking 5 hours and 37 minutes to 6 hours to get there and then home. Now, guys, he could have done something less sloppy, right? He didn't plan it very well, in my opinion. He could have literally hopped on a flight, and he could have got there in an hour and 35 minutes. He could have rented a car, done that, changed the license plate, and then hopped back on a plane or drove home. but that's not what he did. And again, we just talked about the psychological aspect of this. In my opinion, he was seething the whole way there. Maybe he was on Facebook, guys. Maybe he was on Facebook watching their wedding videos. Maybe he was taking a look at their beautiful life on the internet, looking at whatever they had up, hit them with the children. Whatever he was doing, he was seething, in my opinion, on the way there and even on the way back. All right. You say I have a friend who turned Rex in over 10 years ago, and he will probably be a key witness. And there's a sex worker too that also is going to be a key witness that he got away from, right? Rex Human. I know a lot about the case. All right, so that is crazy. That's the drive there. And then let me just quickly show you the house and the access, and then we're going to go to court and then tell you how the kids get interviewed. Okay, so there's the house. I kind of showed it the other day just to get an idea. That is the absolute Tepe home. And as you can see there, you can see there the keypad, and we don't know just yet if they got in from the keypad on the front or the keypad on the back, but more than likely it's 90% plausible that he knew the key code as being either their wedding date, their anniversary, or a child's birthday, something like that. And he's not the only one that had that, guys. They have friends and family that were able to get in that have that code. So they've been there for years now, 5 years coming up on their wedding anniversary. They got married there. Everything here. Look, there's even it looks like there might be a, no, I don't see a code there. I see a code there. And then when you start to look into the house a little bit more, you can see kind of where they might have come in from when we find that they had there's two keypads on the house, one in the front, one in the back, right there. You don't even need a key. There's no key down here, nothing here unless your battery dies. You punch in the code and bam, you're right in. That looks like the front of the house, right? Then you can see if you come in from the front there, you can kind of see that was the double door from the front. The front door is right there on the right. And then you also have there's the front door again. You can see from the street, he came up. You could probably see the car across. If he came in through the front, law enforcement knows it. Again, you can come in from there. There's the front door again, front side of the house, kitchen. They just have to walk through that area and up the stairs to get to the room. I also looked at the layout. I'm going to show you the back door. He might have come in through the back door, but it looks like he came in either the front or the back, went through the kitchen, went up the stairs into the master bedroom and shot both of them. I'm assuming this room is probably the master bedroom, the one that has the bathroom and everything, but I'm trying to get to the back of the house to show you what he did. That looks like they have like a little basement game room. That didn't happen down there. There's the back. So guys, either he went through the front key code. All right. He went to the front, went through the kitchen, up the stairs, or I don't know if they have a side lock, but if they don't, he could have either went right through the side gate, climbed it, and went right into the back right here. Right there, you see a key code again. Hold on, let me show you. You can see how easy it was to get into that house. One in the back, one in the front. You can look through there and see the whole layout of the house, and then you go up the stairs, and there's a room. There's a bottom basement and then a room upstairs. I think it's a tri-story. There's one story, there's the first level, and then there's the third. All right. First level would be down the basement. Technically, this would be the second level, but where you come in from has a key code, and then you just go straight upstairs. It's easy peasy. The layout is just a real straightforward. Bam, bam, bam. I go up the stairs. Here we go. Found them, killed them. Children are in their beds. Nobody saw anything. Dog's still sleeping. Said, done, and murders. They're out of here. 15, 20 minutes. All right. Lisa says he didn't care. When we seen that wedding photo where Monique said something to the effect of, I had to kiss a few frogs to find my prince, MM took that as Monique is rubbing it in his nose. And so did the media as well. I saw the media saying that Monique took a stab at him by saying she had to kiss a few frogs, and he took that personal. All right. He took that personal. Little Miss Sharon, what's up, Australia, my girl? All right. You had a friend with an altercation. Yeah, there was an altercation with a sex worker, and she'll definitely be testifying against him. All right. I'm sure the kids had their own rooms, right? They had a boy and a girl, 1-year-old and 4-year-old, and you don't want to ever poke the bear, guys. Never poke the bear. All right. Be careful, like I said, on Facebook. All right. Now I think I'm happy showing you what I did. We're going to go and we're going to fast forward into court today, which is the last portion of this. We're going to see him in court. He's in there for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to talk for another few minutes about the children in court today. Total of 5 minutes. He waived his right to extradition. They're going to take him back to Franklin County in Ohio to face the upgraded, premeditated, aggravated murder times 2. Now, the death penalty is in place. It hasn't been used since 2019, but it can. And there's some really big aggravating factors in this case. And if he doesn't take a plea, he might end up on death row. Let's watch. Let's fast forward and zoom to court today. That was this morning.
And we're into court now, rather, for the start of this hearing for Michael McKee.
Call the table, Michael McKee.
He looks like a pretty big guy, and we saw his statures. We saw that. We saw that he was 6 feet tall, 200 and some odd pounds. He's real bulky and stocky with a square. Coley SF says lock down and put profiles on private. Zuck just hired a Trump lackey as president of Facebook, guilty of crime. So it's good time to get that data, get off that data hacking nightmare. Agreed. I mean, just everything else you said is all personal opinions, but I've been off of Facebook because it scares me. All right. It scares me that people out there don't like me and they hate me just by looking at me. They don't even know me, but that's what happens to everybody. So be careful. All right. Michael McKee makes his first court appearance. He'll be in court again, I think maybe next week. I'll keep you posted.
Third quarter, the defendant is present in custody.
Can you answer for the record? Michael McKee, have you had a chance to speak with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your position at this time?
Yes, at this time, Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. McKee, I will assert his right to counsel. I will assert his right to remain silent. And Mr. McKee believes that the most expeditious manner in which he may defend himself against the charges pending in Ohio and to plead not guilty would be to waive his right to an extradition.
So there it is. He pled not guilty and he waived his right to extradition, and he's now going to be back in Ohio facing double aggravated charges. All right, let's keep going. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you, little Miss Sharon, for becoming a member again and renewing it. You guys know the passion that I have for you guys to bring these cases and bring them correctly with facts. We do suppositions on this, and it is my channel is my narrative, right? It's for entertainment purposes only. All right, let's keep going. But I will always try to show you the facts. And guys, I'm having a wonderful day now that I'm with you. I don't even care all the stuff that happened this morning. So thank you.
And to have a governor's warrant and to agree to his immediate transportation to Ohio.
Understood. Thank you. We will set this matter then for 2 o'clock on Monday for status on the transfer.
Thank you.
Anything else we can do today?
Okay, so 2 o'clock on Monday, and they're transferring it. Okay, so there's 222 people. Please say a prayer that the Tepes get the complete justice and the children get the help and the care they need. So devastating as her husband, who was harmed, far more beautiful than Monmouth, the murmur. Oh, I love you guys. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
And yes, they did say that he was also going broke. So there's no way he would have been assigned a public defender if he had the means. All right. So I think that he was going broke. I think that his life was spinning and spiraling, and he just felt the need to take him out. All right. Your tribe always lifts you. Right, Cheeky. Absolutely. Same with y'all. I hope I lift you guys when you see me daily. Again, we're going to see how the children were, right after this, we're going to see how the children were interviewed and what they might know. And then that's it, guys.
Let's bring in criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer. Short but sweet, waiving extradition. From my perspective as a judge, not that big of a deal. I mean, you can fight it, but generally, if they have that evidence as to where it occurred and what they have in that other state, they're going to extradite. Your thoughts on this waiver?
Exactly. It's the smartest and most efficient way to move the process forward. He ain't going to win anything fighting extradition. May as well get to where you need to go as quickly as possible. That hopefully smooths out his initial appearances at his eventual destination. And let me just tell you, when this case broke last week, we talked about how this is the kind of scariest crime there is because there was no lead.
Now, listen, someone that said earlier that he may want to he may waive the right to a speedy trial, or not waive the right, but keep the speedy trial so they stay on track. That might be the case. He may just do that, but most of the time, I gotta tell you, a lawyer, especially one that now has to be transferred to Ohio, may say, I need more time to put this case together so you don't get the death penalty. You can't do that. I advise you not to, because you're going to get the death penalty if you don't. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. He has court on Monday coming up.
Nothing. This was the terror in the night. Big sigh of relief that someone who could very likely be the responsible party was identified quickly by law enforcement through the investigation. This is the kind of crime that is just heart-rendering. It's just awful.
Yeah, it's heart-rendering. And on some level, you got to wonder what the motivation might have been.
I got to laugh just for a second. Who else thinks about Minions when you see this guy? Who else wants me to take this guy and just paint him yellow? Because I don't know who told him those glasses look good on him, but you know what? It doesn't matter. If he feels good about himself, that's all that matters to me. If he can wake up in the morning and look at those glasses and say, damn, I'm feeling good today. I'm going on court TV looking like a minion, then more power to this guy. Amen, brother. I'm a minion. I'm going on court TV today.
That sort given out. But he was captured because of good detective work, good investigation work. They connected a car, but also they had surveillance video of someone walking in the area where these crimes were committed. Let's pull that up. It's always chilling to see these things. Even by the way this person is walking, who they believe was Michael McKee, might have been involved in this crime in this way. But Josh, one of the things I want to ask you is when I think about a case like this, you think about motive, as I mentioned earlier. This is his ex-wife. And I wonder, is this still the type of case that you can look at as being part of a domestic violence?
And you see, everybody's talking about motive right now because we don't actually know. All right. But that's why I wanted to get into the psychology of it. I love you guys, man. You guys make my day. I'm telling you, if he wants to look like a minion on court TV, he's still on court TV, and he's got a picture of him damn self with those glasses. He's feeling it, guys. He's feeling it. All right. He's probably got some hot Latino dude boyfriend. He's probably married to some hot Latin guy that has a 6-pack of abs and a huge chest. Just saying. I'm not saying he's gay, but I am.
Situation. I do not know whether there was any of that type of thing when they were involved in any way. But again, sometimes you leave someone and they look at you over there being happy and creating a family, and that makes them seethe. And again, it's sort of this extension of domestic violence.
No, he waived his right to an extradition, which means he's going to be taken back to Franklin County, Ohio. So when you waive your right to be extradited, that means he's going to be taken back because he committed the crime in Ohio. And he's not saying, I don't want to go back to Ohio. I want to. No, it's the opposite of that. When he waives his right to an extradition, that means he's going to be taken back to where he committed those double crimes. All right. Double homicide. I know it gets confusing, but that's what I'm here for.
It's definitely within that realm of discourse. I was just talking with a senior prosecutor here today about how domestic violence continues to be studied and it affects all parts of our judicial system, not even just criminal, but the civil as well, because the cycles of domestic violence create future problems. If you're a young person and you're exposed to domestic violence in the home, you have a higher likelihood of lots of negative externalities occurring. That goes over to literally family law. It goes to civil cases. It goes to fights in workplaces. Domestic violence and how we handle emotional dysregulation as people, one of the biggest challenges facing us existentially as a nation when we talk about criminal justice.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And this is one of those people, Judge, one of the last people you consider. I believe he was a vascular surgeon or a surgeon.
Right.
And again, anyone who can get to that level clearly is someone that's respected in the community, not someone you'd suspect of something like this.
Absolutely. And smart and focused to have accomplished that level of education and work. I want to do this, though, because I want to.
But he's still a blockhead and he still committed the worst of the worst crimes. I can't take him seriously. You guys are cracking me up today. And I know why you come here, because I give you guys all, I'm so energized, like, wake up, come on, it's Monday, let's go catch ourselves a killer. Love you guys. Let's keep going. We're gonna get to the children right after this.
Talk about some of the differences between Spencer and Monique, specifically first the way they were killed, and I think we have a full screen that provides a lot of the information.
And this is going to be helpful to find out the way in which they were killed, to tell you how his mind was working. All right, so that, and then the children, and guys, hit that like button, subscribe, get a membership, and share with your community. All right, I hope that I can get you guys every day, get you some of that energy. All right, catch a killer, baby.
Information factually of the differences that Spencer had multiple gunshot wounds and Monique had at least one wound to the chest, that there were no obvious signs of forced entry, no firearm was found on the scene. And then again, that surveillance video, as well as detectives linked McKee to a vehicle that arrived just before the murders. These facts, I think, help build that circumstantial case, although the two killings can be used, I think, by the defense, Josh, as two differences between the killings, perhaps meaning two killers?
Yeah, Judge, you've seen this so many times in your practice before you got on television, that these are the kinds of cases where that perfectly normal person you interact with all the time snaps in a way no one can predict. Now, when it comes to defending it, sure, they're going to put up the idea that there could be other people. There's calls about another harassing interaction with a neighbor down the street in the middle of the night. Heck, I've had my door rattled at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning by someone trying to get $20. So there's always these other alternatives. But when you get down to the linkages we know about already, combine it with this prior relationship, we don't even know how aggressive that process was.
Yeah, nobody's really telling us or talking about it, but I assume it's going to come out. And there he is in a picture behind him. He's got some square glasses on. He's feeling himself, guys, but it's the information that he's given us.
There's going to be investigation into the suspect's family life, his personality currently. And I think that it's going to be a strong effort from the state if it all lines up.
Yeah, now this whole thing came to light 10, 11 days ago or so. The gentleman who was killed in this case, the victim, didn't show up for work, causing his boss to call 911 because he's not the kind of guy that wouldn't have shown up for work without calling in. Let's take a quick listen to that 911 call.
And then we're going to get to the kids. We just got a couple more minutes here talking about the charges and the actual crimes. And when you look at the crimes and what he did, yeah, one shot to the side in the chest of Monique, But why did he overkill Spencer? Was he the actual person that he felt like if he got rid of him, everything else would be okay? Tracy says, it's past my bedtime. I'm 2 hours ahead. See you next time. See you next time, my friend. Hit that like button on your way out, would you? Yeah, look at those pictures. They look like the perfect couple, and that's what he was seeing.
Did
Right?
you receive information that he may have been involved in an accident, or?
No, ma'am. I just know that he is he is always on time, and he would contact us if there was any issues whatsoever. And I just don't know how else to say this. We're very, very concerned because this is very out of character. And we can't get in touch with his wife, which is probably the more concerning thing.
Josh, I want to take you back to that hearing that we saw. We've both been at.
And we're going to point out again when he talks about the fact that Monique didn't answer the phone, and it was especially concerning because she didn't answer. What does that mean? Did they know something more? Did they know that he was stalking or harassing? Or was it just because maybe there's, the couple, she's the one that always answers and puts the things on the calendar and talks to people, and he's always, busy doing his stuff. She answers for him. We don't really know.
This a long time. I got a bit of a vibe from it when they pled not guilty. They waived the extradition, and he agrees to an immediate transfer to Ohio. Made me feel like they aggressively want to try this case. Makes me feel like he wants to fight and show his innocence. Did you get that sense in the way this went down, the way this hearing went away?
Yep.
Absolutely. In fact, it's one of the first things that's come to my head, and it's just like what you talked about. We've done this for so long. If you know you're going to face, let's just face it, a factually strong investigation, the best thing you can do is pressure them to try it too fast. You can force unforced errors. You can make sure the state doesn't have the time and luxury to really go through everything in the way that they would like by filing, speedy trial demands. And it depends on how that.
See, so it could help either way. It could help or it could hurt the case. If he says, I want to go full steam ahead, that can block the prosecution from getting the evidence and the witnesses and everything together that they need, right? Because they still need to get the autopsies and toxicology and everything else, any experts they might have. So either way, it could either hinder his case or it can help. So I guess it depends on what his attorney's going to do in that, what they feel is necessary. And we won't know until I think when he gets to Ohio.
That works mechanically from state to state, but we call it in Georgia jamming them up because the state doesn't have enough resources to adequately prepare for a high-profile, concentrated, complex case in a short period of time, which in Georgia, you're talking about 1 or 2 terms of court. It can be as short as a couple of months.
Got it.
I see that as being a very valid defense, but telling, because the other side of the coin is just, you gone, man. You gone.
You don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want that. So just tell us, if you could briefly, Josh, what happens next? We know extradition is.
And after that, we'll go to the kids. This guy is cracking me up. He's a character. Hey, we're entertained. But he looks like a character. Come on, minions.
Wade, they have to get all the different law enforcement people lined up to safely transport him to Ohio. Yep. What do we expect next?
Yeah, there's actually an interstate transport system that's been set up to facilitate, because thousands of inmates go around the nation on any given day. It is not a luxurious form of travel. It's the most local bus of all local buses. But once he arrives in the appropriate jurisdiction, everything's going to be set up. He's going to have a first appearance. He's going to be presented with copies of the information that he's required. They're going to immediately handle whether he's going to be appointed a public defender. Even if he's going to get private counsel, a public defender may be available for that initial appearance hearing, where very little comes from the defendant other than a not guilty. And then I expect the people of Ohio to put him on a regular prosecution track. That's where that.
Yeah, I mean, the prosecution has to put the case on. They have to put the evidence. The defendant doesn't have to do anything. All right, they don't do anything. I don't know what this guy that we're looking at. They might have said his name at the beginning. He's a court TV correspondent and lawyer. Tweedledee. Yeah, we'll call him that. I don't know. I don't know his name, man. He's got a picture of himself, but he doesn't say. I didn't remember
That
it.
speedy trial could possibly come up. If he can get in there and force the state to move faster than they want, that may be his best defense.
Yeah, I would agree. And we're still waiting on that charging document to find out some of the details about what they have moving forward against this particular defendant.
That's right. That will tell us a better idea of what the evidence might show.
Yes, it is.
This is one of those cases.
Maddie, may she rest in peace. Oh my goodness, she just popped up. Okay, that is him. Happy holidays. That's absolutely him. That person of interest was him, and they went and found out where he was walking to, and they traced him to his car, which in fact drove back to Illinois. So that video is Michael McKee. What's up, DJ? How you doing, Ghost Boy? Good to see you. All right, we're gonna take a look at this, and it's a few minutes on the art of interviewing children witnesses, but we're talking about these Columbus, Ohio killings. So bear with me. It's about 6 minutes long. You guys want to know what's going to happen with the children and what they might already know or how they're being interviewed? Stay here.
Accurate forensic information from a young child is an extremely specialized skill, and one that many police officers just hand right over to the experts, like Dr. Rebecca Bailey. She's a leading family psychologist and former personal therapist of J.C. Dugard. J.C., you'll remember, was abducted by a convicted sex offender while walking to the bus stop at just 11 years old. She remained missing for more than 18 years, bearing 2 children by her rapist. Her rapist and his wife are serving life. Dr. Bailey, thank you so much for being here.
So I'm wondering if she's going to be, or she already interviewed the children, but we're talking about how to interview the children. And you say, I doubt the 1-year-old knows anything. And that's the problem. It's a catch-22, because a lot of times they don't at the surface know anything. And then they start getting talked to by these child psychiatrists and people that know how to get it out. So I hope they don't know too much. Opal Sis, good to see you, my friend.
Just walk me through what happens now, if you could, with these little tiny witnesses. I'm just going to assume the 1-year-old is out of the picture, but that the 4-year-old could be questioned. What actually happens?
Well, what's important that when they are questioned, and particularly you're right, the 4-year-old is with somebody who's really well trained in forensics. There are protocols that are used throughout the country that is responsible training, which include being very careful about not re-traumatizing the child, which as we watched with that one, my heart just went into my feet. Bless that kid.
And like I said, it's a catch-22 because you can re-traumatize them without even knowing it. So you got to be careful, because if they suppress those feelings, we suppress things for a reason, for self-preservation. So we're not always walking around with that trauma. It might be there, but it's not at the surface. And so you got to be careful with those kids.
You want to be very careful about not suggesting things, about not doing leading questions, taking a kid into repeated interviews. We're very careful about that. Also titrating at times, that the experience, the environment where you do the interview is super, super important. You don't want it done in the police station. 4-year-olds, like any other age, also can be very variable in their ability to recall accurately. And then the last thing is if it is somebody known to the child, you can see a tremendous loyalty bind at times.
And do you guys think that they ever even knew, like, okay, let's say the 4-year-old, do you think that the 4-year-old had ever even seen Michael McKee before, or had any inclination of who he was? I don't know. I'm asking you, just curious. It seems like they wouldn't.
Times, it's just so heartbreaking, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you something, that AJ Hutto, you didn't even see the most traumatizing moment on the stand when they asked him to identify his mom, and he looked around the courtroom and didn't, and then suddenly recognized there she was. She'd been away from him, locked up for years, and he just burst into tears. It broke my heart. I covered it live, but I do want to ask you about the suggestibility, because one of the things in AJ's case that was questioned by Amanda's defense lawyer was that this child had been put in the back of a car with other family members who hated Amanda and said all sorts of things about Amanda, and that might be the memory of little AJ. How does an expert know when you're getting the real witnessed event or just what was suggested to them?
Right. That's interesting. And a lot of times they don't use children on the stand at all, or they don't even use their testimony because it's easy for the defense to say X, Y, and Z, right? We're almost through it. Just want you guys to understand where these kids are, how they're, what's going on. A lot of people are asking about the children. All right. A domestic violence advisor, we always have to remind victims and survivors never become complacent. Some perpetrators hold on to you for years, some to grave vigilant always. Interesting. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I didn't
it's
realize.
challenging. We absolutely know it's challenging. The basic when a child is being interviewed in the formal manner, you want to make sure that they are able to give child-centered language, meaning that they're using words that sound like a child would use. They're concrete. They're able to stay with the same story without a whole lot of fantastical elaboration to what they're saying. So that's really one of the ways to do a veracity check. It's again challenging. But you're looking.
Yeah, I would imagine that. I was just going to say, I would imagine that the parents or the adults who are trying to meddle with a child wouldn't think to use 4-year-old lingo. They would just talk.
Now, here's the thing, guys. I hope that they were sleeping for the majority of it. If he really did take their lives at 3:52 a.m. and by 10:03, the family heard the kids crying out. I don't know what time a 1 and a 4-year-old gets up, but I know they don't sleep in until 10 o'clock. So maybe they slept until 8, maybe they slept until 9, just trying to think positively, and maybe they were there for an hour. No, he didn't hurt them or the dog, which we just went through all of that psychology, Maggie. So you'll definitely want to rewatch this.
In their own mannerisms,
We're almost
and that would
there.
be absorbed and then regurgitated by the child, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of my work, as you know, has been in the treatment side of it. And even in that side, you have to be really careful with suggestibility because you can change the course of a person's perspective in treatment as well. And sometimes when I know, particularly in a very, don't want to get into a tough area, but high conflict divorce, if the language doesn't fit, you know that you're not seeing a authentic expression of what occurred. I will also tell you, I have worked on one very tragic case where the mother was murdered and they haven't actually pinned the murder to the person they believe, but because it was a family member, alleged family member. And these children, they're just, the loyalty bind is so deep.
Yeah, it usually is. And guys, they're going to be probably raised by the family members. It seems like they have a good support system, but I mean, let's just get past this first and hope that they don't know too much. All right. But that's what's happening here with we're talking about how the children are being interviewed. Again, hopefully they slept through most of it and they don't have to deal with too much of this.
You can see it, that they just can't spill the tea. They just can't. And it's not because they're bad kids are hiding.
Sure. And sometimes they start saying things and then start to realize what they're saying is damaging to their loved one. And then they, like AJ just said, no, sir, I'm not going to show you what I just said. So it really, I could see your reaction. And I had the same one. Let me tell you, it was so hard sitting through that trial. Dr. Rebecca Bailey, I'm going to call on you again because I think there's more to this story. And I think those kids will play a part. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Nick.
All right. That's it, guys. We're here for 2 hours. I usually do 1.5-hour shows, but when I have such a detailed case and I can't get to it, because I don't come on the weekends, then I got to come on and tell you everything that I got in my head and dump it out to you. So that's that murder mystery. Now, not such a mystery, although I still never in a million years would have thought that it was going to be her ex from 8-9 years ago. No kids, no real assets, no real any of that. And the ROs, right? The restraining orders were absolutely there, but they say it was just a technicality and they both had a restraining order against each other, which didn't give me a red flag. Thank you so much. Meme, I appreciate that. Clark says, Jay, you always do 2 hours. We're spoiled. I try to get it in 1.5 hours, guys, but I just have so much in my head that I got to get out. And I get to do it with y'all. So there it is. That's the update today. Michael McKee is now charged with 2 aggravated and premeditated, could be facing the death penalty, is going to be taken back to Ohio and in court next week. And that's that. Thank you guys so much for helping me get to the goal. I appreciate you. Anybody that wants to email me, go ahead and send me an email to guiltyofcrimebyj@gmail.com. Right now, I'm not taking new cases per se because I have a lot to update you on. And oh wait, let me do this real quick. I wanted to show you guys my ghost because we cover more cases there, and I can't do that on my channel because I only have one slot per day. So let me just show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to do at the end of my episode is share a case with you. So for instance, I am going to probably cover the bone collector guy, but right here we have modern day Ed Gain, and that's the skull collector. But there's children that are missing and parents and mothers and all kinds of stuff that go missing that I cannot cover every 5 days a week. I just don't have the capacity, but I cover it on Ghost. So if you guys sign up for a free guiltyofcrime.ghost, it's ghost.org, guilty of crime. And you can take a look when there's a child missing. You'll find out that he's missing and what the deal is. Every day we post, sometimes even 2-3 times a day. Where's Clara Comer? She's missing. And then you start reading into the article. But almost every day, guys, there's the remains were just found. If you guys didn't know, was this a teacher? Remains found of Linda Brown, who was she a teacher? Some kind of CPS teacher or whatever. So that's going to get you the cases. And then I can say, hey, they're missing. Look out for them, or they were found. All right. Yeah. Tiff's very good at posting. She usually does the basic post, and then I'll do the post where I attach the documents to it. So right now, I'm not signed in, but you can see missing and endangered when he was missing. January 8th, we came out with that. We now know that he was found alive. Parents are still arrested. They're going to take him. He's not going back to those family members, thank God. But quick little read. You'll find out if someone's missing or they found or whatever. Just things that we cannot cover on Guilty of Crime every day. All right. So go sign up for that. Guilty of Crime, guiltyofcrime.ghost. It's ghost.org, Guilty of Crime. Sign up for free and get more coverage, because why not, right? All right, guys. Thank you so much, Husky Lover 17 and everybody else today. Thank you. A big shout out to Shoot for the Stars. That was so dedicated to making sure we made our goal, and everybody else today that got a membership, gifted a membership, super chat, super sticker. Love you guys. I'm so glad that I can be here with you Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back tomorrow. Love you guys. Prayers 2026. One small miracle, RJ. All right, guys. Love you. See you tomorrow. If you need to email me, guiltyofcrimebyj@gmail.com. And I'm out. Love you. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Guilty of Crime.
I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my content, please share this video, like, and subscribe. You can also follow me over at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or Gmail. If you'd like to donate to my channel, you can use Cash App or Venmo or PayPal. Thank you very much in advance. Guilty of Crime.
Are you guilty of crime?